Welcome. So, would you like to know how our global crowdfunding donation distribution formula actually works? Well, it all starts with the power of multiplication. Our community crowdfunding platform is different because we use multiplication rather than addition. In most platforms out there with crowdfunding, there are over 500 of them on the internet today. They all use addition. And not only addition, they're all in competition with each other. Every project that's on that platform is competing for donations with each other. And not only are they competing, but they have to get each of the donations themselves, and they have to advertise and do a lot of work to get people to donate to their projects. And they use simple addition. And here's how it works basically. If you have a project up on a normal crowdfunding website and you find 4 people in this example who would like to make a donation, and then find another 4, and then through your advertising and efforts you find another 4, and then find another 4, you've received 16 donations towards your project. Now, in multiplication with our community crowdfunding platform, basically you're looking for 4 other project managers who would like to fund their projects, who find 4, who find 4 other project managers, who find 4, and now because of multiplication, 4 who find 4, who find 4, who find 4, you have a potential of 256 people in your crowdfunding community. And because of our formulation, which you're going to see, and people stepping up and sharing contributions, you can potentially receive donations from all 256 members of that community. Take it out a little bit further. In addition, let's say you found another 4 donations and another 4, so that bring you to 20, and then 24, you'd have 24 donations. In multiplication, if you have it 4 more and then 4 more, 2 more generations, that gets into thousands of people now. So the power of multiplication is extremely significant when you're crowdfunding. Our platform is based on a give and then receive formula. By sharing contributions one time on each step with projects that came before you, your project qualifies to receive contributions on the same corresponding generation steps from unlimited project managers in your community that come after you. And here's a representation of how that might look. So start with your project, which is, we're put here as my project. And let's say that you were referred by a person who was supporting the vets, and you made a contribution first, because we give in order to receive. You made a contribution to their project to get going, and then you referred Bill and other projects, a few other ones, let's say, and now you can receive contributions from them. Now, let's say that you make another contribution from some of the money that you receive, you share it, and we'll show how that works in our formulation just a little bit after this slide, to the children's home that's on the second floor above you that came in before you. And now you're qualified to receive from the second floor from John, who Bill referred, and many other project managers as the network grows. And that's pretty much how the formula works. Now you're going to make a contribution to Ricky's college fund, and you're going to be able to receive from Mike and many other projects that are on the 3rd level below you. And it keeps going in that same formation, as you can see, all the way up through 7 levels. This is a very powerful way to share contributions, and it'll become much clearer as we go through these slides. Before we get going and showing exactly how the money works, it's important to tell everyone that this is not a business or an income opportunity in any way. Our donation distribution formula is purely based on crowdfunding, and we make no claims or guarantees of contributions that your project will receive. Each individual's project's success depends largely on his or her commitment, desire, and personal efforts. Please note, the following example is not typical. It's just a hypothetical mathematical example. In the real world, it will never happen in this manner. Some project managers will refer to, and some one, and some none, but some may refer many more. So each situation will be unique. Your total financial risk is only the initial contribution that you donate to your referr's project, which is non-refundable and a personal choice. The following example is based on you referring 2 project managers who each make a one-time contribution of $200 to your project. Each new project manager then refers 2 additional project managers that do the same. As additional contributions are received, every project manager steps up and progressively funds all 4 floors in this example. There are 3 types of donations in our donation distribution formula. The first one, you can receive 100% of direct donations from all personally referred project managers, which we call on the first floor donations. Now you can receive, as a second type of donation, 50% primary donations from project managers on floors 2 through 7 within your community as you step up and fund floors 2 through 7. And we have a physical representation of this that we'll be showing here in a second. We'll make it much more clear. And in addition, you can receive 25% secondary donations from project managers within your community that will be explained in greater detail later in this presentation. Okay, here's how it looks, and this is basically the nitty-gritty. This shows a pictorial roadmap of exactly how our donation distribution formula works. So start with imagine, and you can follow my pointer, imagine that you're building a building with 7 floors and each floor has 3 steps on it. So here are the floors, floor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And notice that each floor has 3 donations on it. Here, the target donation on the first step of the first floor is $10, and then it's $50, and then $100. And on the second floor, the first step is $20 target donation, $100, and then $200. And it keeps going up. You see that there are 3 steps on each floor with target donations. It's important to note that each floor doubles in value as it goes up. Notice the second floor adds up 20, 100, 200, it adds up to 320, and that's where this number is. The next floor adds up to 640, 1280, and so forth, all the way up to a little over $10,000. The gold number underneath shows the half amount. Half of 320 is 160, and we'll talk about that. And the reason the first floor is a little different, it shows the full 200, is, as you can see over here, on the first floor you receive 100% of all the donations, and hence you receive all of that. On floors 2 through 7, we have a different formula. You receive 50%. If you remember, we talked about the primary donations. That's the first 50%. You receive that when you're qualified for all these floors from project managers that follow after you. And the other 50% are 2 donations of 25% that gets paid to the refers project and to the refers refer project, and we'll talk about that in more detail. The key to see right here is that on this side of the formula is what you give first, and this side is what you receive potentially, and we'll show these numbers in a second here. So as you move up, this little man moves up these stairs, and you make these donations only one time through the course of your involvement with this community. You make these donations only one time, then you qualify to receive on steps of people that follow after you on this side. And this is how it works. Let's start with the first example. Remember in our model that we had 2 who found 2, who found 2, and so forth? So start with 2 project managers that you find who make a one-time $200 donation to you, and you receive $400 for your project. Remember, on the first floor we call it direct funding, and you get the 100% of that. So you receive 400. And this is how it works. Let's go a little bit further into the process. Out of the $400 that you receive, based on our guidelines within the community, you can share parts of what you receive in donations to and share it forward with other projects that came before you. And in this case, you're going to share first the $20 for the first step on the second floor, then the $100 step, and then the $200, which add up to $320. And we'll talk about this all as just a whole floor, but you do it in small increments. You start with $20 and it keeps moving up. But let's add it all up together. Your total donation that you make to the project that came before you on the second floor is $320. You take that out of the 400 and you can see you're left with $80 for your project in your pocket. Now what happens next is this. These 2 project managers, based on our formula, go out and find 2 project managers each, which gives you potentially 4 project managers now. Now remember, on the second floor through the 7th we have a different formula. Now when you qualify, you only receive half, and this formula that we're going to show only shows this 50%. We call it a primary donation. A direct donation is first floor, where you get 100%. The first that you receive on floors 2 through 7, the first donation you receive is what we call a primary one, which is 50%. The other ones are called secondary donations, and they're 225% donations because it's received with two other projects. We're not going to talk about that in this example. We'll show it afterwards in the next slides. But as we go up in here, we're going to just only be talking about this 50%, which we call a primary donation, which happens on floors 2 through 7. So as you can notice, 50% of 320 is 160. So when you have 4 people potentially on your second level in your community, and you receive now donations, when they step up and fund their second floor in their back office, you receive 50% of that donation, and we'll talk about the whole floor here. In half of 320 is 160. So 4 project managers make a donation of 160 to your project each. Now you can receive a potential of $640. When you add the $80 that we're carrying over, that's $720 for your project right now. What happens next is, as you can see, you're going to take part of what you receive. It's actually a large part right in the very beginning of the $720, and now you're going to share with a project that came before you, 3 levels above, $640, because you'll do it in steps. You'll only start with a $40 share and then eventually $200 and $400, but when you add it all up together, it becomes a $640 donation for the whole floor. And that comes out of what you received from donations out of the 720, and as you can see, that again leaves you $80 left in your pocket for your project. Now when these 4 project managers each find 2 each, you potentially now have 8 project managers on your third generation here. When these 8 project managers step up to their third floor and make a donation, remember you receive 50% of what the third floor is, which is 320, times 8 is $2,560 potential. Now when you add the extra $80 in, that means that that's what you're carrying over still from here. That means you have $2,640 towards your project at this point in time. When you share and step up and share it forward with the project that came 4 generations before you, you're going to share $1,280 here with that project in steps. First 80 and then 400 and then 800, as you can see. But it comes out of the money that you've received towards your project, and you're just sharing donations within the community. As you can see, what you're left with that you have towards your project after you make that donation is $1,360 potential. Take it one more level up, and you notice that these 8 project managers, when they find 2 each project managers, you have a potential of 16 project managers on your 4th level. When these 16 project managers make, now what's half of this is 640, a $640 donation when they fund the whole the whole floor, you have a potential of $10,240 coming into your project. When you add what we carried over from what was left over on the third floor of $1,360, that adds up to $11,600 potential. Now if you step up again to the 5th floor and go through this, continue with this process, now you're taking only really a small part of the $11,600, as you can see, to pay the $2,560 on the 5th floor. That will leave you $9,040 towards your project after you fund it. But you're funded on the 5th floor, and now you're qualified to receive from these potential 32 project managers. Now when they step up on their 5th floor, these 32 project managers, notice that you're receiving $1,280 from them. You can see that's a significant amount when you get that much from each of them potentially, and it keeps going up. As you can see, the numbers of project managers actually keep doubling practically, and the steps get twice as big. So it becomes very, very powerful. And when you take it up to the 7th floor in generation, you can see that with 128 people at this level of donation, that becomes a significant amount of money to your project that potentially can happen. Now in order to receive this $9,040 potential, these 16 people actually have to have this many people following behind them to make it really work, because they're not going to step up and fund their 4th floor until they have project managers following behind them that are on their third floor. So if you can see, this would be on their first floor, second floor, third floor, from the fourth floor. And you can see that they would need these many people following them in order for them now to have the money to keep funding from receiving money contributions to be able to step up and fund their fourth floor. So if you add up all these project managers, that gives you an idea of about how many people in your community that you need to potentially receive this amount of funding towards your project. And it keeps going. As I mentioned, this number gets extremely big as it keeps going up. And we're only talking about 50% of the donations, because that's the primary donation, is this 50%. These shared donations that are 225%, one we're going to talk in a second about on the next slide. So that's pretty much what happens. You give as you're giving to projects ahead of you, and then you can receive from a very expanded, because of multiplication, because 2 who find 2 becomes multiplied, you can receive from a huge number of people. Now, there are many project managers, quite a few actually, within our community already, who are starting with 4 or sometimes even 8, and some people as many as 40 or 50 project managers that they refer directly into the community themselves personally. So, this is just an example of what you can start with too. Some are doing 1 and some are doing none, of course, but there are a number of people who are starting with a significant bigger number of project managers, and of course these numbers can expand at a much faster rate with the more that you share and start with. So let's go to the next slide. Now let's talk about the other 50%, which was, as I mentioned, 225% secondary donations. When you add them up, they equal that other 50%. When you receive a 50% primary donation on floors 2 through 7, as shown in the previous examples, a 25% simultaneous secondary donation is paid to your referrers project, and an additional 25% simultaneous secondary donation is paid to their referrers project. And these two 25% donations add up to what makes that 50%. So that's how it works. Now let's talk about what that looks like when you start receiving that. Here's how it looks to you. Remember in our earlier example, if you referred 2 project managers who each referred 2 project managers. Now remember, that's totaling 6, because you started with 2, they each referred 2, which makes 4, and then your original 2 adding up to 6 project managers in your community. You referred 2 who referred 2. You can receive a 25% of the donations that are given, simultaneous secondary donation aligned with all the primary donations that these 6 project managers receive from floors 2 through 7. So when these project managers, all 6 of them, receive that donations that you saw in that whole chart that we just showed, all those stepping ups, when they receive that, you can get a simultaneous donation towards your project of 25%. It's extremely powerful on all 6 of these project managers. So it pays out through 2 generations. Imagine what's possible if you personally refer 12 active project managers instead of just 2 during the next year who do the same thing. It's extremely powerful. When you add in the contributions from all the simultaneously shared donations, your donations can potentially double or triple the original example that we were showing back when you were looking at the numbers. And notice here again, we're talking about, when we did the first chart going up the stairway, we were only talking about the primary donation, this first 50%. Now we're talking about the second 50%, which are 225% donations. When you add that into the formula that you were looking earlier, it can literally double or triple the donations that you receive for your project. There's an automatic placement tool programmed into the system that we recommend everyone utilize. This will automatically create a community structure like the example we've just shown you. All funds received are immediately placed into your electronic wallet. You can start with a $50, $100, or $200 donation, but we recommend going with the $200 if you can. And it's simple. Starting with a $200 contribution can help accelerate the funding of your project literally 4 times faster. And the reason is very simple. People tend to do what you do, and if your community are all sharing $50 donations, it literally takes 4 times as many people to reach the funding that when each person does 200. So we strongly recommend going with the 200 if you can. Remember what the great motivational leader Zig Ziglar said? He said, if you help enough other people get what they want, you will get what you want. And this is the magic of our revolutionary shared donation distribution formula. We succeed in funding our projects by helping and supporting others fund theirs. And this is really key, this whole sentence right here. On all other crowdfunding platforms, all the major ones out there, you're really competing with all the other projects, and you have to go get all the donations one by one for your project by yourself. On our platform, we're not so much looking for donations to our project as much as looking for other people who would like to get funded for projects they have. And by helping them get funded because of our donation distribution formula, our project gets funded on its own accord. So we're not really looking for donations and, let's say, a handout. That's sometimes very uncomfortable for some people. What we're really looking for on our platform are other people that we can help. And by helping them succeed because of our shared platform, our project gets funded beyond our wildest imagination. So by helping other people, we get our project funded. And we're using the power of multiplication, and we're not competing with the other projects. We're actually working collaboratively. We call this basically cooperative economics. You can get started today. You can join for free, add your dream project to the website, make a one-time small out-of-pocket contribution, begin sharing your project with others. This is key. Help others do the same. Keep stepping up and sharing it forward. So what's your dream? Crowdfunding can happen very fast. It doesn't have to take years. It can happen in weeks or months. Live your dreams in Technicolor. Start your project today. Get back with a person who was kind enough to share with you this presentation.